Hello?
Yes, yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
we are awaiting President Professor K.G. Suresh to join. We will start.
Okay. Okay. I was just confused
I
if it has
have
started
joined,
or
Dr. Mishra.
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor Suresh is here.
Yes, I have joined.
Professor Suresh, you are to begin.
Okay, okay.
And please
Okay, I
change
thought that,
please
yes.
change the name. Please change the name. Your name on the screen. Kindly change it, rename it, and kindly begin.
What is it currently named as? I am not able to see. Okay, this is Venus Upadhyay. This is the link that has been sent to me
Yeah,
by.
I know. Just change it to KG Suresh and please start.
So I think only Mr. Devilal can change it. Dr. Devilal, can you change it? Because I am not able to change it from my end, you know. This is the link that you had sent
Sir,
me.
it's okay. Actually, yeah. I just sent it to you for joining. This is the panel link, so we can start now.
No. Okay, now it is okay. Now it is okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, good evening to you. Good evening to all of you. Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
My apologies. There has been, because I've joined from Maheshwar. It's a pilgrim township about 400 kilometers from Bhopal. I've come here for a conference. So this is a very important session that the Global Media Education Conference Council has organized. And I'm really happy to see some of the most distinguished names who are, present today as panelists. Delighted to see everybody here. And I can see on my screen my very dear friend, Professor Sudhir Gavhane. I can also see Dr. Pradosh Kumar Rath. I can see Shri Ashok Kumar Panigrahi, of course, and Dr. Devilal, and my, colleague at GMAC, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary. I see a lot of many other friends too here. Since we have to finish on time, let me start right away. Today is a very important subject, and that's on information war. And of course, there are so many experts today who are going to talk on this. My just 1 or 2 line, introduction to the topic is, today we know that information is power, and whoever has information is today the most powerful. And it's all about whether you are right now witnessing the Ukraine-Russia conflicts. It's about the information warfare that is going to give the edge to either side. And you can see that constantly happening in our neighborhood also. And for a democracy, there cannot be anything more important than information, the correct information. And to that extent, you see today, particularly post-COVID, we have seen, the impact of infodemic, and how, not just political narratives and discourses, but even information related to health, information related to education, information related to, a lot of issues are being today dished out with the advent of digital media in a big way. You have now information deeply penetrating into classrooms, into drawing rooms, into bedrooms, and what is the kind of information that's going to, and that's making huge impact even on children, on non-Nigerians. You can just see the kind of impact it's making. It's a whole new, it's not just about technology. It's not just about data sovereignty. It's about content. It's about, how, inclusive it can be and how divisive it can be. It's about, the nature of the information that is thought to be peddled, and the purpose, the vested interest involved, the corporate interest involved, a lot of stuff is there which we need to understand. And that is where, particularly for a democracy, it's very important that we make informed choices. As citizens of the democracy, our citizens are able to make informed choices. And how is it possible in today's corporate scenario, in today's scenario where governments across the world, we have seen, are seeking to control information as much as possible. Then where all our servers are based out of, it is also an important thing. The hacking that is being done, so many issues, not just the cyber war, the cyber, the psychological warfare. I'm sure that all these issues will come out in this very important deliberation that has been organized. Congratulations to the organizers. And let me straight away come to the task that I have been given as the president of the Global Media Education Council. We have been engaged in this very important exercise to mark Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And today, the task assigned to me is to introduce today both Dr. Devilal Mishra and my friend Dr. Sudhir Gawane, who is going to be honored as the eminent media educator today for his contribution to journalism. Let me first introduce a young friend, very dynamic, Dr. Devilal Mishra, who is currently an assistant professor at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Ravinshah University, Cuttack. His field of specialization are communication theory, media ethics, communication and social psychology. He's active as a communicologist, a motivational speaker, poet, writer, columnist, playwright, creative director, TV panelist, and communication behavior consultant. Mr. Mishra, before I invite you, should I right away introduce today's winner of our award, or should I wait for the time when you are going to announce the awards? How do we go about it? Dr. Mishra?
Sorry, you can also.
Okay,
yes,
so let me introduce. Let me introduce Dr. Sudhir Gawane also, who is a media educationist par excellence, and he is the former vice chancellor. He's a highly experienced media educator, serving since the last 4 decades in the capacity of the vice chancellor of 2 universities, a dean and director, director general academics, a popular university teacher, professor and head university department, quality assessor of NAC, and many other higher education leadership positions from time to time. He was a former and founding vice chancellor of the Mahatma Gandhi Missions University, MGM, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. I was really fortunate to have visited the university during his tenure. I was his guest, and what a great function it was. And was also the former vice chancellor of the Yashwantrao Chavan Maharashtra Open University, Nashik. He later on worked at the MIT World Peace University, Pune. He contributed his services as the Dean, Director of Liberal Arts, Science and Commerce. He's a prolific writer and writes innumerable. He has written innumerable articles and reports in newspapers, journals, and magazines. He is quality assessor of higher education institutions and visited more than 80 colleges and universities as the chairman, member coordinator, and member of the peer team during the last 2 decades. As many as 15 PhD research scholars and 10 MPhil researchers have successfully completed PhD and MPhil under his supervision. Professor Gawane is associated with many international, national academic associations. He has earned reputation as the acclaimed academician and passionate higher education leader from South Asia. He is instrumental in developing 200 acres of wasteland into fruit lands of Dr. Ambedkar Marathwada University in the capacity of chairman, campus development committee, creating an oxygen hub for Aurangabad city. With his ideation, he has established the high-tech digital studio in his university department at the Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. He is the recipient of many international awards as well as honorary D.Litt from the George Washington University of Peace, USA, an honorary doctorate from the Swiss School of Business and Management, Geneva, Switzerland, an International Academic Leadership Award by the Uni-Caribbean Business School from Africa, from the continent of Africa. So it's a really honoring Professor Sudhir Gawane. So over to you, Debilal, to proceed further with this. Thank you so much.
Word shown. And your presence very much
Devilal, Devilal, your
the-
connection is Devilal, your connection is weak. If there is, I suggest you come to a better connected place or just speak without the video.
Okay. Am I audible right now?
Jumbled up. So, okay, continue.
So my sincere regards to all the members of our GAZ, other guests and participants this evening. And on behalf of GMSA, I proudly welcome everyone to the 48th evening of the Global Communication Education Conclave. And the topic of the evening is information world in democracy. As we all know, we are living in a time that is very rich. That is to say, the media has pushed into our lives in a big way and has vibrated some of the subtler facets of our existence. So information in the present time is more of an instrument.
Devilal, you are not audible. There is a problem with your connection. I'm sorry, you are the moderator. Devilal.
I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
I
Yeah,
think it is
am I
better
audible
if you can
Yeah,
switch
Debilal,
switch
you
off
just
your
use
video.
the audio.
Yeah, just use the audio.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yeah, you are better.
Okay. So now I invite the session chair of the evening, Professor Pradosh Kumar Ratha, who is the head of the Journalism and Mass Communication Central University of Kolhapur, to preside over the session and deliver the opening address. Professor Ratha.
Thank you, Devilal. First of all, I'm feeling privileged to be honored by the chairman of this session, and I am very much thankful to GCEC. And first, respected A.K. Panigrahi sir, respected Sudhir Gavane sir, to whom we are honoring today, and Honorable Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, K.G. Suresh sir, we met recently. Namaskar sir. And our keynote speaker, Ms. Venas Upadhyay. She is from senior reporter from Epoch Times, USA. Another special guest, Professor Dipankar Sinha, and my colleague Devilal, and the delegates present here. I welcome all of you to this session of Information War in Democracy. The word information war and democracy, the important words are here. In this session, we will discuss in due course of time. As a chairman, I just have an introduction about this. Information war is nothing the physical war, but the soft power, which shows nowadays information explosion and information flowing from one person to another. That is the happening of today's world. As information explosion, we have discussed during the first part of the 21st century. Explosion means the explosion coming from the receiver to the sender. There are media producers who are exploding information to the people, general people. But this situation is different nowadays. People are creating their own productions. They are the creators of communication. They are sending information. So large number of creators and large number of audience are there. In this situation, it is a war-like situation. Soft power plays an important role instead of hard power, as we are seeing as Professor Suresh sir rightfully discussed about the war in Ukraine and Russia. So in this war, information is more powerful than weapons. The word of words, they were more powerful than weapons. So information power is very much useful nowadays. And particularly the third concept is democracy. Information flows in a smooth way when it is the democratic setup is there. In autocratic setup, it is not possible. We are proud to be residing in a democratic country where information is flowing like anything. But in this, with the emergence of the social media, information flows are unchecked. There is no few gatekeepers, but they are uncontrollable. They cannot control the flow of information which are coming. It is like a war-like situation. The people are the producer, as I told you, and the people are receivers also. So in this war-like situation, what to do, what not to do, which information is correct, which is not, it is very difficult to judge. People in social media are in a war-like situation to send information, forward information without checking its fact and its reality. And the eventuality is that fake news is rampant in nowadays. Society is misguided by fake news. So in this situation, who are the creators? Who should be the gatekeepers? It is very difficult to judge in this situation. And I will not say any more about this. The panelist experts are there to, we'll listen to them. And this is as a presidential address. This I welcome you all. And now I request our eminent media educators, chief guest of this session. Devilal, should you request or should I?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Pradesh Kumar.
And I wish this
Opening address.
session will be very much, and the deliberation will be very much useful for the future society. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And as you say that we are living in a time that is media rich, and media has pushed into our lives in a big way and has hydrated some of the subtler facets of our existence. So information in the present time is a powerful instrument, is a powerful tool in the political and social agendas, with the nature of the agendas affecting of the news. So thank you so much, Dr. Doctor, to take the show. And I now would like to introduce our chief guest, has been video broadcaster more than 3 decades of career. He is specializing in international risk communication and marketing. And he always innovation, presentation, and production of programs with out of creative ideas. And now he is a media expert at National Academy of Marketing and Multimedia, Foundation of Bharat. So we are taking much of everyone's time.
Thank you, Professor Devilal Misra ji. And really, I feel honored to be among the learned communication experts of the nation and other part of the world also. So I know Dr. K.G. Suresh, when he was in INC, we are soliciting articles for our broad vision, our souvenir for radio and Doordarshan program staff association. So respected Professor Sri K.G. Suresh ji, Professor Sudhir Gavane ji, Dr. Pradosh Kumar Rath ji, Madam Bhena Upadhyay ji, and Professor Dipankar Sinha ji, and Devilal Misra ji. And my dear respected panelists and participants, it is a golden opportunity for me to be a part of this session with all learned professionals. I am sure this will give a chance to learn new dimensions of communication, which will definitely expand my knowledge. I am thankful to GMEC for this opportunity. I have been watching the status, growth, and transformation of media's world since 1975 when I was in class 7. Getting newspapers in the evening in one place and cycling 5 kilometers daily to collect newspapers from a magazine stall in another district headquarters were my experience. Listening to programs of BBC, Radio Shillong, and Vividh Bharati on my transistor during graduation and post-graduation days perhaps landed my career in the electronic media world. Spending the time as a media consumer and professional for more than 4 decades has provided me the scope to experience the continuous changes in the content creation, consumption, and participation. With the development of the technology and advent of internet, the communication world has undergone a sea change in last 3 decades. The broadcasting has become narrowcasting and one-way traffic has become both-way traffic. The consumer has also become the content creator. Thus, the target has become the source also. The media scenario has changed with the opening of the sky for all after the Supreme Court judgment in India and welcoming the private players in the arena of electronic media. But the real social, cultural, economic, and political transformation has been made possible by the new media or the social media, or we can call it now digital media. The wireless smartphone and internet connectivity has begun a new era, as well as we all media professionals have experienced. We all have seen the dominance of the traditional media being eclipsed by the new media. Now, with a smartphone in hand, with internet connectivity, every citizen in any democracy is a reporter, photographer, cinematographer, and broadcaster. The role of sender, message, medium, receiver, and feedback has taken a brand new shape. Also, with the advancement in the information and communication technologies, have become more pervasive, macro level, spreading across nation and communities. Also at micro level, in increased use by individuals in their daily life. As per the report published in October 2021, in India, we have 1.18 billion mobile connections, 700 million internet users, and 600 million smartphones, which are increasing 25 million per quarter. India is also having the highest number of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram users in the world. If you have a smartphone with internet, then you have hundreds of newspapers, television channels, radio stations, and all social media platforms at your reach. So the content creation, modification, presentation, delivery, and participation scenario has changed, whether we can say developed like anything. With these changes, there are scope and instances of information explosion in any democracy. Information through communication is vital in shaping the public opinion as per the desired goal. In a democracy, it is the mind or the thought process of the people that decides the fate of the political leaders and parties. In a big democracy like India, which is experiencing election at regular interval at local, regional, national level, molding public opinion is must for all political bodies. As media professionals, we know information is targeted at a desired audience to educate them so that they will aware and empower themselves for the development of the community, society, state, and nation. We have 24/7 news channel, radio stations, on internet, social media platform, millions of websites at our reach. So there are number of scope to get information that also in digital form, which takes little space. So there is no hurdle as far as medium is concerned, but now comes the question of intended content. Private radio channels in India are yet to be allowed to broadcast news of their own. We have hundreds of television news channels in Hindi, English, and regional languages in India. There are many web channels. Social media are also providing news in their own way. And the newspapers are still there and also growing in contrast to the Western countries. Now comes the ownership. Most of the media houses are directly or indirectly controlled by a particular person or family or a group having political affiliation. So, as for the ownership, the editorial policies are decided and also the nature of the coverage and the content. Conflicting interests have paved the way for the war in the field of information. In such a scenario, no information presentation is without clandestine intention. As a professional media user, I do not find any pure news on any newspaper, news channel, or social media platform. It is news with views or editorial in disguise. The report is doctored in such a way that the opinion of the user is molded as for the political desire of the proprietor to get political advantage. When there is competition for more listeners, viewers, readers, users, and revenue, here comes the conflict and war of information. Just like the countries are at direct or indirect conflicts for regional or global dominance, the media houses are also at war to make their path smooth to get power through it. When the politics has become power-oriented and not service-oriented, the conflict of interest creates fission in the society. This fission provides the opportunity for the political leaders, state interest, to take the way with them. So the way is disinformation and misinformation. The desire for the TRP, revenue, and political advantage, the media houses are fighting with each other, using the information as the weapon. Fake news, disinformation, misinformation are different form of weapon in their war of information. We all know hundreds of examples and its impact on the society and the nation. This war of information democracy is not a healthy professional practice. Because of this, the media ethics and professionalism has suffered a lot. With this, I end my word with the hope to learn a lot about this information war in democracy from the esteemed panelists. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this, and thank you again for tolerating me for a few minutes. Thank you all again.
And handle point on the topic itself, that is information. So, again, we are very fortunate to have an eminent educator with us, Professor Sushil Gavane. Our president, Professor K.G. Suresh, has already introduced Professor Gavane. So, I request our president, Professor K.G. Suresh, to present Professor Gavane for his
your voice is cracking, Devilal. I hope that the other panelists are able to hear me. It's a great honor. I have already read out his detailed profile. I think Dr. Gavane is no stranger to media education. He's a well-known name in the domain of media education and as an academic administrator. And GMAC is really privileged to honor him with this.
It is unfortunate today that voices of both Dr. Devilal and Professor Suresh are not very clear. I'm sorry. I think the introduction was already given. Can we have
the introduction has already been done.
Can we have the video? Yes. The host can show the video.
Yeah, please. Yes. Professor Sudhir Gavane?
Yes.
It's your turn.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to the Global Media Education Council, which has, recent time took the birth, and the child is very fast growing and health is very good. It seems by the activities and report I have seen. So at the outset, let me congratulate the establishment of this Global Media Education Council under the leadership of Professor K.G. Suresh, who is the presently Vice Chancellor of the Makhanlal Chaturvedi National Journalism and Communication University, Bhopal, as well as former Director General of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, very dynamic leader, visionary thinker, and highly experienced media practitioner. As well as I also congratulate Secretary of this organization, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, for his remarkable contribution in terms of his training, his contribution into broadcast journalism, and thousands of students have been benefited by his contribution in training, particularly in the broadcast media. I thank Dr. Debilal for inviting me. I thank Global Media Education Council for giving me this award. I feel honored, and I am a very humble person, and I accept this honor accorded by the Global Media Education Council. And I hope that I will continue to work more because of this energy I have received from this award of reputation and prestigious award. The topic every time this group and this council engages with the audience is very important in terms of educating the teachers, educating the students, and the media professionals. And this is very important that it is trying to bring together media educators, media institutions, and the media professionals, media organization coming together so that interplay will be there, interaction will be there, and there will be benefit for all stakeholders of media and entertainment industry. Once again, I thank Global Media Education Council for honoring me and giving me this respect. And I will commit myself for the promotion of media education and its qualitative enhancement. Thank you very much.
You could share a few words about on the topic also, sir. You have been a stalwart.
Yeah, great.
Area.
Yeah. I will be happy because, I was just, I was not knowing I'm expected to speak on that. But I'm happily would like to contribute my views on the topic. Information war is a concept like Professor Rath as well as Panigrahi has explained briefly on that. And even in the introductory remark, Professor K.G. Suresh has explained it, the dimensions, various dimensions of information war. Actually, why this information has become so important. I remember I met with Nobel laureate who got Nobel Award for information economics. That time information was not much discussed as we are discussing now. But that time, when I met him, and I am also a newspaper economist, media economist. So I was having a personal attachment with Kenny Darrow, and I met him personally in Aurangabad city of my place where we had his speech in university. And that time, he explained me the importance of information. As K.G. Suresh has rightly said, information is a power. But misinformation, disinformation is also a power. And when we are into the digital world and digital age, everything is open. Whatever we say that we are embedded in communication, in social media, all the platforms, we are not doing a private communication. It's a public communication. It is available. Anybody can hack that info and create problems about the institutions, about the persons, about the nation. So information, preserving information, protecting information, information security is very, very important. But at the same time, now, as mentioned by K.G. Suresh, my friend, that Ukraine and Russia are in war. But at the same time, this, what is called as information warfare is also going on. And what is that information warfare? it is apart from what Professor Panigri has mentioned in his remarks, that within the media organization, control over the media, control over the communication is being tried, but at the same time, social media is dismantling and cracking all that. So at present, nobody can control information, but at the same time, the social media controllers are controlling the information, because every bit of information coming on their platform. The information warfare is that it denies information, truthful information, denial of truthful information. It is a process of corrupting the information. So whatever the information coming from one particular country, say from Ukraine or say from Russia, in the present context, it is being corrupted by the opposite nation. And it is being circulated through the social media to the different countries, including video, concocted videos, and all those things. We know that it has been initially informed to the world that the president of the Ukraine has left the country, but it was not the case. So a lot of things, corrupting the information, as well as destruction of the information altogether. Destruction of the system of communication. That is also information warfare area. So therefore, many of the times, I feel that war is, designed in the minds of the leaders of the countries. And they have their ambitions. And to fulfill those ambitions, they have thinking in their mind through the physical warfare and through the information warfare. Along with that, we can conquer any geographical area, and as well as we can conquer the minds of millions and millions of people around the world by information warfare. So one physical power and as well as information power combining together and creating information warfare. And there are a lot of systems developed into that, and those systems work on that. And at one point, you have a physical infrastructure of war, and at the second, parallelly equally important, you have a system of information warfare, creating your own info system favorable to you and distorting the information provided by the opponent or enemy system, and trying to reach out or trying to disrupt the information created by the enemy, which is harmful to my nation. And likewise, information warfare is continuously done by the media organization, by the army organizations, by the government organizations, and in the same way they try to project that our mission of war is with the ideals, with the thought, with the noble cause. And by putting that kind of projection, they want to create a positive feeling among the audience of the world who do not know what is happening on the ground, but that happening on the ground is coming before us through different social medias, and those are at present have become the source of information, but at the same time, they are also source of misinformation, distorted information, and malinformation, and we may be getting a wrong impression about the whole thing. We are in a present world, which is the world of information, overload of information. And in that, the scanning of information, segregation of information, and finding the truthful information is a big challenge for the media organization, and as well as for the journalists, as well as the public at large. And therefore, I personally feel that information war has to be part of journalism curricula everywhere, and that has to be one paper specifically dedicated for that, because we know for politically, as KG Suresh has referred, for politically manufacturing consent, information is used, media is used. and as well as media organizations are being used and deployed for specific purposes. It happens all over the world, everywhere in the world. And we know Pegasus kind of, Israel developed softwares are there which are encroaching in our privacy in all this. Therefore, all these things are very important. And our student of next generation and present generation, and even our teachers should know all the dimensions and aspects of this information war and information warfare. With these words, I thanks once again for awarding me and honoring me by Global Media Education Council. And I think that I'm a part of your organization, and whatever the responsibilities you give to me, I will dare to provide you all kinds of services to the best of my capacity. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Gavane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful words. I think it's time to listen to our keynote speaker, Venus Upadhyaya. She is a senior reporter with Epoch Times, a New York-based global media house, and her area of expertise is in South Asian geopolitics. She has reported from the volatile Indo-Pak border and has a lot of sensitive investigative stories to her credit. So without taking much of everyone's time, let me invite the keynote speaker of the evening, Venus Upadhyaya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Devilal. It's been a real pleasure and honor to be on this platform today. I feel very humbled being among such distinguished panelists and people from the media industry. Compared to everyone present here, I know very less. My knowledge is limited to the stories that I do and journalism that I have practiced in the past about 18 years. Thank you so much to the Global Media Education Council. This is an amazing platform, and congratulations for been able to put up something like this. As Dr. Devilal has already introduced, my name is Venus Upadhyay. I work for the New York headquarters, the Epoch Times. Since about, I was reporting in DC, and I came back to India when the India-China conflict was happening. And that was a decision that my media took to send me back to India because they felt that they needed a reporter who can understand. And at that point in time, the entire geopolitical context between India and China was drastically changing. In fact, the bilateral relations after the Galwan drastically changed. So I was sent to India to be able to report and to give to the readers, to our global readers, a perspective that probably many of the medias lack. So my purpose of coming today, I was thinking, what is it that I'm going to speak? I'm very sure there's a lot of information on it, and everybody being so distinguished, distinguished intellectuals here, I'm very sure that everybody knows a lot about it, and your analysis would surely be enlightening your students. There were some key questions that I started, and I thought that I would make a presentation here. So my purpose today is basically to create new linkages, not merely to just share information, and probably to share a bit of an awareness that during my media career, I have gathered. I want to start with a little experiment that I did many, many years ago in 2006. I am generally based in New Delhi, but right now I'm Pondicherry. I'm sitting here in Pondicherry. And this is a very special place for me because back then I was working with the Indian Express, and I left Indian Express and I came to the southeast coast, to a small town, Nagapattinam, for assessing a particular program, which was a post-tsunami program. And at that point of time, I had to take care of about 30 villages. And I saw that the 30 villages were very dislinked in terms of their information. And right, even in democratic setups, we have media. By media, we understand we have newspapers, we have radios, and we have, we have television, and round the clock, we have content which is being bombarded on us. But how much of it is really linking people? How much of it is really connecting people? So at that point of time, in early years of my career, I happened to do some experiments. I started a little newspaper for children at that point of time for those 30 villages. And it was an exclusive newspaper for children. And my idea was to experience a form of journalism, which I felt would inspire me as a practitioner. Over the course of time, I've realized that those experiments were some of the most innovative work that I have done till now. And why I say that, because democracy starts from the grassroots. Democracy starts from grassroots institutions. If the grassroots institutions have democratic setups, democratic frameworks, democratic practices, and therefore deep-rooted community medias, we can have new meanings of media, new meanings of democracy coming up. And why am I mentioning this? Was these are very small experiments, but they explain the importance of information, power and information warfare very well. So I started this first newspaper, and we could do it only for about 6 months because the program was ending. But the way this little newspaper, it started to connect communities. It started to connect communities who are not talking because of caste disparities, because of other social-based notions, because of fights and all this kind of different affiliations. There was something common for the first time that started to go to everyone and started to very certainly link up their minds. I took the same experiment to Shri Aurobindo Society's village development project here in Villipuram. And that newspaper was called Gramam Pudyodayam. I'm not really sure if they're still running, but they carried it out for over a decade. What was very important about it is that this newspaper, which was just a monthly newspaper, obviously it was created out of those participatory approaches, but it became a very, very influential newspaper in the community among those 7 villages. So it became so influential that its information became a power tool in the hands of the power seekers. And when that happened, all the people wanted to influence the newspaper. And thus it became a great task for the team, for the project team that was running out the newspaper to, basically devise methodologies, to devise ways. What do you do editorially, when you have people knocking at your door, they want to influence you as reporters, they want to influence your editorials, they want to influence everything, they want to have space on your media. What do you do at that point of time? And just imagine, it was such a small experiment. I remember what the team started to do at that point of time. They said, okay, various political parties, local political parties, or panchayat heads, or all those political aspirants are coming to us. They want space in our media. They started to focus more on the quality than on the individual. So they would put the picture, the 7 villages know who this person is, but they would not let power seekers utilize their platform for media. Now that was a very, very small experiment, and it was facilitated, by a project. So obviously, the way it was practiced was very different. But it is an ideal case to understand how in democratic setups, media is a very, very important tool, because media bridges, it bridges gaps, it goes to those regions, goes to those arenas of our psyche, which even communication, one-to-one communication cannot go. It becomes a common linkage. So I kind of see that it's just not the mass media that, mass media, it reaches masses, but it's rather something which is going inside the mind of everyone. And it is so potent that it has the capacity of influencing those minds. and not only influencing them, but conditioning them. And not only conditioning them, but having an impact on coming generations as well. So it's something very, very powerful. So with this, I would further go on with my presentation. And as I, started to practice my journalism more, I've been working for Epoch Times also since about 2011. I've worked in the US with the Epoch Times for about 2 years. And I've been since about 2020 October, been reporting from India. My understanding of information warfare in today's geopolitical context is basically, let's say, information warfare in the Cold War 2.1 to 2.0, the second Cold War, which people are, saying that, okay, with the Russia-Ukraine conflict happening, it's basically an attempt to take away attention from the Cold War that is brewing between China and US, and refocus it on the Cold War I, which was between Washington and Moscow. Now, just if we see at the core of it, it's again information warfare. But there is something fundamental to me in my understanding as a journalist. That fundamental is basically the left and the right construct. There is a disparity of ideologies. There is a disparity, though we call it under a larger umbrella of democracy, but even within democratic setups, there are two polarities, the polarities of ideologies. So there is a left ideology, there's a right ideology. Though in the media industry now we say that, on the meter you have the center, then you have the center right, you have the center left, and you have the extreme right, you have the extreme left. And there are various ways, I think, as media intellectuals, you know it more than me, that the ways to basically analyze content on this meter. But let's see, for me, the basic understanding is that information warfare is basically the warfare between the left and the right ideologies. So it's basically between the left narrative and the right narrative. In a country like US, which is a democratic country, they say left media is over 90%, and then the right-wing conservative media is, compared to the left media, it is very less. Now, probably there could be very many reasons behind it: the reasons of the market, the reasons of influence. There could be reasons of espionage, many other reasons of how the media market in US has turned out to be like this. So when I started to study it, and as a journalist, I started to write, and I look at something. So I look at from this perspective of democracy versus communism within the communist setups, or what we call the liberal versus the conservative. And then within different democratic societies, I think it's again very different. Sometimes I'm very confused about what conservatism means in Indian context. And so therefore, in terms of media, how would we define conservatism? In terms of foreign policy, I kind of mostly write on foreign policy. So I write on international affairs. So I kind of look at it from a wider spectrum. But I always have this question, and probably as professors, maybe this is something that even students in India, as media students in India who are going to go into the media industry, I think they need clarity about what is left versus right media in India, and how does it come to content, how it comes to viewpoint, what is the decisiveness in both these cases, and how personal ideologies of the journalist are influencing it, how they get influenced. The thing is that before the people get influenced, before information warfare tools reach people, before that information bomb explodes on the mind of the people, it is being carried out by someone. It is being carried out by the journalist. The journalist carried out. Are they carrying it out with awareness? people who are practicing journalism, young media professionals who are practicing journalism, are they aware that what they are writing has got something called a narrative? There is a narrative backbone, and there is a conscious effort that goes into actually writing a piece. And what you write has a lot of influence on the minds of the people. And that as a journalist and a media professional, you can yourself be influenced unknowingly, without you knowing that you're being influenced, that there are actors, there are players in the media market who are linked with the national political arena, who are linked with the international geopolitics arena. They're out here to influence you and use you as a tool for information warfare. So I feel that somewhere the battlegrounds have shifted. Battlegrounds have tremendously shifted. If we look at information warfare, is not something new. Information warfare was also, USSR was very adept in information warfare, and but battlegrounds have shifted because now we have the social media. Now we have the technological tools, which we didn't have ever before. Now we have the metaverse with about 2.6 billion people who on an average spend 1 hour every day on the metaverse. Now we have AI, which is linked with the metaverse, which is linked with the social media, constantly taking information from us, constantly using the information that we feed into it, and it gets fed into massive clouds. And there are power regimes who are sitting at the back end with their massive AI infrastructure and in AI investments to basically tap into those data sets and to use for politics, for warfare. So I think that awareness that the battlegrounds have shifted tremendously is very, very important. Then there's another thing that I've become aware of now with Ukraine and Russia thing happening is we look at the convergence of Russia and China. Just look at the geopolitics of the past some time and just see how these two powers are working together. Right from the Beijing Olympics, you had Putin going to China, and the kind of announcements and releases that have come up, joint announcements that have come up from them. So what are China and Russia trying to do together? Both of them are, major regime, very adept in information warfare. We know that very well. US knows what China does with its information. We know how deep state works, across the world, what it does with information. So there is something that both Russia and China, though they are not like all-weather friends, but both Russia and China, they want to weaken the West. Why do they want to weaken the West? And what are the various tools that are using for weakening the West? What does the West signify? What is it that the West signifies, which is very different from what Russia and China jointly signify? Obviously, Russia and China jointly signify communism. What does West signify? West signify larger free world, democracy. So again, the core fight is basically about that. And how are these powers infiltrating the West? They are infiltrating the West through media. And today's mass media platforms are very, very important tools for that. So obviously, when there is infiltration that is happening, there's also a fight to defend the free world, the so-called free world. Obviously, within the free world, again, we have various affiliations and various, different platforms and ideologies. But generally, so there is an attempt to infiltrate the West, and there is a fight to defend the free world. And there is a constant information warfare that is going on in this domain. Now, if we just look at it, what is in this context is a weapon? information obviously is a weapon in this context. And I think, the way like we study technology, we say, okay, we have the naval power, we have the, we have the air power, and we have the land power, and we have, technology like proliferating so fast and tremendously growing in these platforms. But when we look at information, how much do we understand information in terms of warfare? We can dissect and say, okay, Russian technology, this is Russian technology, and this is, American technology. And Americans don't like if a country buys Russian weapons, they have sanctions. And Russians don't like if there is a country, which is their traditional ally, buys American weapons, because they know that the communication systems can be leaked out. And it's those communication systems which are actually the strength or the basis of those warfare technologies. But when it comes to information, we haven't been thinking like that. We have global media platforms, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have YouTube. YouTube is right there in China's hand. I wonder, there was a report in New York Times last year, December last year, how Beijing influences the influencers. And it talked about how Beijing is using a lot of YouTubers from within China, constantly bombarding the YouTube with videos. They have millions of followers, they have millions of views. And the gullible, uneducated media view. By uneducated media viewer, I'm talking about all those people who are media literate. They have no idea what they're consuming. They have no idea that behind these videos which are coming from China, there's a very, very strong communist narrative that is being going inside their head, that they are being, without their knowledge, being indoctrinated. So it's a very serious thing. So I feel that as media professionals, we have a need to basically study information as a weapon, and how this information is related to a free world. What is freedom? Does freedom means, having our, having our rights and entitlements? Does it mean having social welfare schemes where we get a lot of freebies? What does free world mean in today's era of proliferating information technologies? When information is being bombarded on us without us asking for it, when we don't even know what we're consuming, that is happening at a massive pace in free societies. What is meant by a free world? When China is bombarding YouTube with these thousands of videos, when information is being fed on us, what is a free world? And there is no boundary. The metaverse has no boundary. The outside world has boundaries, their continents, their countries. But the metaverse, there is no boundary. And the metaverse is being predominantly controlled by the Chinese. So what is happening? Then I think the question which I ask when I practice is, how is free world related to the human mind? Why is human mind so important? How is freedom linked to the human mind? How is information linked to the human mind? And as media professionals, as students of journalists, what is it that we need to inculcate? What kind of a training do we need to tune this human mind to, that it understands practically in terms of action-orientedness, not just conceptually? Oh, I know what is free world. Not that. When you're on the ground, you're a journalist reporting. Do you understand what is freedom? Do you understand in what ways you're being indoctrinated, fed information? And do you understand how to seek balanced information? So the fundamentals of the human mind and training of the human mind, I think that's somewhere we lack. Then how is this freedom, this free world, this world of information, where the war is between the the information coming from the free world and the information coming from the world that wants to so much indoctrinate us? What are the core values that are behind these two domains? Do we understand those core values? And then as a journalist, I have an important question. What's unique about India? In terms of information, as an information society, I sometimes actually also like to call it learning societies. Are all information societies learning societies? So obviously there is a gap. And I think probably these are important questions that we need to address. So free world has values, and it's these values that design an information cycle. These values are subtle. They are intangible factors. They're not tangible factors. They're not visible factors. They're not visible on the surface. They are not easily comprehensible. They are somewhere underground, but they are there. And the entire design of the information cycle, the output that goes, whether that goes into information as a weapon to indoctrinate a particular mind, or that goes as a weapon to liberate your mind. There's a design behind it. The design is the values of the free world and the values of the opposite world. And it's this information cycle based on those values which defines the social systems, whether those are political, economic, or social. Now I want to quickly go on psychological warfare and influence operations. So basically these are influence operations. You know, now I recently did a story on India's next elections and how China is, locking horns with India's ruling party. Why China doesn't want a decisive political victory or election victory in India. Okay, sorry, I'm being told to conclude. Yeah, so I think there are a few important points that I wanted to mention. So, for example, former USSR had a very big impact on Newton's Delhi when it comes to subversion of political systems, subversion of media systems. And Yuri Bezmenov's interviews basically throw a light on how the communist apparatus viciously overtakes the conscience of a country, utilizing the media. And then the China and the India angle. The great war between China and India is also going to be an information war. China has this BRI, but China also has a digital route. China has Silk Route around the world, but there's also a digital Silk Route. How is the digital Silk Route intertwined with information systems and the information warfare? India's metaverse. So out of 2.6 billion people, how many people are there? Banning of Chinese apps, again, comes from the same thing. And interference in our upcoming national elections, 2024. We need to be wary about it, and it's all about information warfare. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vinas, for the insightful deliberation and for touching on the key issues relating to the topic. And we have with us a very special speaker, special guest, Dr. Deepankar Sinha, who is a noted political scientist and is the director, Center for Social Sciences and Humanities. Is a prolific author and researcher with international accolades. Without taking more time, I right now invite Dr. Sinha to deliver his address. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Misro. I also thank
Professor Sinha, can you kindly adjust the camera? Your headroom is too much.
I'm not home. I'm in Delhi. That is the problem. Okay.
So can you just bring a little your face up and the camera down, the focus of the camera a bit down, if you could.
Okay.
Better.
Better, yeah. Because I'm in Delhi. Connectivity may also be a bit disturbed, so please let me know. So I thank GMAC, Dr. Misro, and all the dignitaries here. And I think I'm pleasant surprise to hear the voice of my old friend Ujjal, Professor Ujjal Chaudhuri. So I think the advantage of being the last speaker is that most of the
No,
points
there are
have-
more speakers. Don't worry. There are more speakers. Thank you.
So I would say that it's a cutting edge theme, and I congratulate GMEC that they have taken it up rather than leaving it for the Western scholars to decide on the trajectories of information war in democracy. So I really am very happy about it. Now, the issue is that, democracy has long been researched since the classical Greek age, Plato, Aristotle, and all that. But information has been much less discussed. And that has been, I think, hinted by some of the previous speakers. There is a sort of what I find a taking for grantedness about information that, yes, it's there and yes, it's important, but it's certain exceptional cases, it is not being intensely deliberated. But as we all know that, in this information age, where information is the arrowhead, so we have no option but to, focus on information. And war, of course, has a new meaning now. It is not the conventional war that we can only think of. It is physical war and virtual war, so on and so forth. And all the speakers, all the preceding speakers have referred to Russia-Ukraine situation. I mean, the way Russia is unleashing information war on Ukraine. So all these, of course, show that it is high time that we have a greater scrutiny of, more intense scrutiny of information. Now, I would describe information as the source code of, democracy, as the source code of democratic societies. There are various factors behind it. Of course, we have the technological dimensions. We have, new technology, virtual networks, cyberspace. We have media, very important role of media, and also the human factor that is also very, very important. So control over information in democracies determine who is powerful and who is not. So long back, Bacon wrote an essay, Novum Organum, in early 18th century. The first line was, as has been mentioned, I think, by Professor Suresh, information is power. Now, it's absolutely prophetic, but the point is that it has become much more complex and multidimensional than it was in Bacon's time. Now, when we think of the information mind game, because, when we talk of information warfare, it is basically a mind game that goes on. And it's basically a mind game between human beings. It may be between nations, but basically it's a mind game among human beings. Now, when you think of the corporatization of information, I think it is very, very important to go to the foundation and to think of the most recent mode of capitalism, which is informational capitalism. So why is it so? Because if you think of Karl Marx or Adam Smith, I mean, two contenders from the Marxist side and the liberal side, both of them would describe, and also David Ricardo, they would all say that it's land, labor, and capital, the main factors of production, and then information is also ancillary, very, very important. But today we know that we live in an era where information is undisputedly the number one factor of production, displacing land, labor, and capital. I'm not trying to argue that land, labor, and capital have become less important, but it definitely follows information. Information has toppled land, labor, and capital in terms of occupying the first place in terms of the importance of factors of production. So, it's a mix of, physical and virtual spaces that we have when we think of information politics, information society, and so on and so forth. And that Scott Lash has a very famous thesis. I mean, it's a book which is called the Disinformation Society. So his argument is that, I mean, however much we talk of information society, the world is heading towards a situation, a scenario where we would only have disinformation society. That has also been, I think, pointed out by almost all predecessors here, the preceding speakers. My submission is that, when we try to explore democracy, try to understand democracy intensely, then we have to think of, appropriate and relevant information, which is related to, of course, the creation, circulation, and neutralization and destruction of information. because it decides who will win, and by the same logic, it decides who will lose. The twist is then in the concept of disinformation. And today, when we are now becoming more serious about fake news, we are confronting fake news, we are negotiating fake news, when we are talking of post-truth world, so we know that the disinformation has set in. Now, a very important report was published in 2020 by Brookings Institution, very famous research body. And the report was titled Disinformed Democracy, the Past, Present, and the Future of Information Warfare. There they referred to 2016, when Russia sort of unleashed cyber attacks and social media campaigns to undermine the US presidential campaign and to, in a way, support Trump and to trying to denigrate Hillary Clinton and so on and so forth. But the most important thing is that they predict that this will go on, this will intensify this kind of disinformation. Joseph Nye, the Harvard University professor of governance, because they don't have a political, they call the Department of Political Science Department of Governance, and who was also undersecretary under Bill Clinton, as we all know, then wrote his famous that famous writing is that this essay is there, which also became a book later, Protecting Democracy in the Era of Cyber Information War. So it was published in 2019. And he refers to the early years of libertarian optimism, that internet, agora, open space. So we will have, everybody will be, having access to whatever they want to convey, communicate, and so forth. But at the same time, so, some kind of optimism about decentralization and democratization of information. So, but the fact remains, and Nye is also very, very particular about this, and we all know that technology has complicated the matters. The marriage of technology and politics, or you may say the marriage of technology, politics, and economics, perhaps, has really made things very, very difficult for us, because we know that there are various mechanisms of controlling information, and even the democracies are vulnerable. Despite their so-called openness and all that, because democracies also, and that is the problem with democracies also, even the professed democracies like USA and any other Western democracies, they also manipulate information. Their rulers also manipulate information to meet their own ends, maybe a bit more sophisticated, in a bit more sophisticated manner than our rulers do. But at the same time, the major problem is with the social media, with tremendous potential it has. But at the same time, we know that it is being used, it is also being abused. Very, very important, I think, for an organization like GMSC would be, and I am sure that I know that there are competent people to do this. To understand the political, the communicative, logic of big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, all these are very, very important, because when you think of problematizing democracy vis-a-vis the information order, or say information war in democracy, or information warfare and democracy, then I think these technologies become important, because all the big tech firms, global big tech firms, are in control of this. They monopolize, or you may say kind of oligopolistic control they exert on this. So any policy to defend against, cyber information warfare must start with, as Nye tells us, with a sort of Hippocratic oath that do no harm to others. But we all know that Nye is a great scholar, but at the same time, it is a very utopian idea. And Russian war against Ukraine, which is a hybrid war, also proves that. So, it's common knowledge that today the information order has become much more complex, much more, I would say, sophisticated than what we had in the days of propaganda during the First World War, Second World War. Even I think Goebbels will be put to shame. I mean, in terms of sophistication that now we are having. So information till the other day was being described as soft power. But if you see the recent research, then you see that information is being described increasingly as sharp power. because soft power was basically, mix of, attractive persuasion and coercion and so forth. But it's sharp power because it's much more sophisticated with the technological backup that we have. So democracy, as we all understand, runs the risk of losing its credibility, not just because, information war is going on in a much broader way, but also the rulers in democracy, and many of them are populist leaders, Brazil, India, and so on and so forth. They are also utilizing, manipulating information for their own ends. So it's not a criminal offense, perhaps. But the point is that, our concern should be this, that it crowds out informed debate, which is the hallmark of democracy, which is the life of democracy. So the main targets are, as we can see all over the world, freedom of speech and expression, privacy rights, and so forth. So I think one of the preceding speakers rightly mentioned the manufacturing consent. So the manufacturing consent, Noam Chomsky has written about this with Harman in the book, how it is done. But I would say that it is not just Chomsky is falling short of, and I had an interaction with him twice. I mean, I had that opportunity. I told him that you are only thinking of the seller's side. What about the buyer's side? Why are we, willingly being co-opted into this? That is the major point in to understand the politics of information. The media ecosystem you find today has a wonderful state-market collaboration. The state is no longer, antithetical to the market. They are now collaborating in everything. The pandemic has clearly revealed all over the world, including India, how state and market collaborates, in having enforced this quote-unquote new normal, which is again a new nomenclature that has come up. So we have trolling factories, we have bots. Trolling factories are institutionalized interference in political opinions, decision makings, and governments are different governments of the world. I think the latest number is about 42. They are having keyboard armies. They are paying keyboard armies who will troll in favor of the government. Then you have bots also, that software program which, is basically automated and which provides you with repetitive, predefined kind of tasks whenever you have a keyword. Now, keeping in mind, I think this wonderful orientation of GMAC, and I have gone through, I have seen the people associated. I love to see GMAC, focusing more on media literacy, awareness and generation of socialization, knowledge and understanding of, contemporary media context, the critical approach to, the received information, verification, various modes of verification, what we can do. Interestingly, my experience with Scandinavian countries, I have seen that they have media literacy programs in their primary schools, since primary schools. And I think Ms. Upadhyay was mentioning about Villupuram and others, the way she has experimented with this. That is the point. I mean, you have to start at the grassroots level. And they are, having this compulsory kind of classes with these children, primary school children, with media literacy. So media literacy movement is a great affair in Scandinavian countries. We have literacy movement. We have a reasonably successful media, but nobody, in popular perception, nobody knows what is media literacy movement. Ukraine, for instance, is one of the leading countries in terms of media literacy movement. So, that is another, I think, feather to its cap, to her cap. Ukraine has consistently, conducted media literacy movement. So I think media studies in India and media scholars in India should put greater stress on, on media literacy movement. But whatever I have said or we have said, perhaps it's only the tip of the iceberg. So there is no end to information war, because sophisticated, the state is there, the market is there, the market is represented by big tech firms. They are there. So more deliberations like this, I think this is really, I would say, very fruitful one that you have really managed to organize. More deliberations like this would be are needed on the part of us, on the part of non-Western countries also. If we are really interested to, nurture democracy, if we have really, it's just The lip service to democracy is not enough. That we are a democracy. We are the world's largest democracy, and we are largest democracy just because of our population. Whether we are intense democracy, I mean, whether we are a nation of intent, that is very, very important. I think this kind of deliberations which you are having today would really go, apparently it may seem a baby step, but baby steps are forward to make, giant leaps. So I thank you again, all of you, for patiently listening to me. I had to do it telegraphically, as you can understand. The time is, I had 15 minutes allotted, and I'm just covered 15 minutes, 5 seconds, perhaps. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Dr. Mishra proceeds with the next part, I'd like to first come on video, Dipankar, and wave at you after a long time. You spoke about media literacy. Just last night, we had a meeting of 22 partners that included alt news, that included social media hooks layer, that included 9 universities of India, the media heads of them, and that also included media heads of 4 universities from 4 other South Asian countries. That's Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and even Pakistan. So, there were also World Teen Parliament founder, which has 72,000 teenagers associated. So we are trying to develop sort of a concerted attempt towards media literacy to start chain of workshops where GMEC is only a partner. There are many other partners, even UNICEF and UNESCO together. We are trying, we're just generating, I hope within 3 months, some of the suggestions that you have given here would be a reality in this movement. I'm sure there are many people doing many similar attempts towards fighting fake and generating media literacy movement. But we're trying to bring a compulsory paper and course in media universities, many other things. I'm not getting into that for lack of time in this, but thank you for your presentation, and good to see you and hear your voice after a very long time.
Actually, Ujjwal, that I didn't have that information that you had a meeting last night. I did it spontaneously too.
I know that. So this has been one of our major concerns, and we're moving on that. Maybe we'll pick your brain more on that as we go ahead. Thank you very much for being present. Back to Devilal, please.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always a pleasure listening to you, and you are brief and brilliant in your deliberation. So our corporate speaker of the evening, Sri Somnath Mishra sir, Nalco, and a very innovative leader in field, who, apart from his administrative and managerial capacities, has also a special interest in social activities. So since we're running out of time, I would request Somnath sir to keep it short. So it's over to you, Somnath sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Devilal. Am I audible and visible? Please give me feedback.
Very much.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
Yes,
Okay.
sir,
yeah. Yeah, as you have told or requested me to shorten my speech, it was for 5 minutes. Now I'll try to make it shorter. Don't worry, because really time is up. Good evening, everybody, all the dignitaries and panelists. I'm here, Somnath Mishra. In fact, my background is not mass communication or journalism. I'm basically an electronics engineer. I worked in NALCO, National Aluminium Company Limited, a central government enterprise, and I just got superannuated last year as general manager. Now, let us come back to the topic itself. Information war in democracy. In fact, in the wake of this Ukraine and Russia war, it has become, it has got a very rather special dimension. It has become a buzzword now. Now, as we see that basically 3 different words are there in this topic, information war in democracy, that is information war and democracy. Now, as we all know, information is power, as has already been pointed out. It is the power in this digital age, and it is the knowledge or news either received or given. So information is intrinsically the truth that ought to be passed on from the source to the destination. But how can it be transmitted? Now, as an engineer, as a communication engineer, I'd like to put it this way, that it is to be transmitted through the channel. The noise or unwanted signals mostly get intruded into this information in the channel only. And very interestingly, in reality also, the information get distorted in the channel by the media, by the government, by the policymakers, and so on. And finally comes the word democracy, which is undoubtedly the most fragile entity in most of the cases. I need not elaborate it. Now, in this conclave, many scholars have already expressed their views very lucidly. I would like to just mention in fact, our present world has come to a non-return path from facing this information war. It is an ongoing phenomenon which started from the 20th century itself, when the First World War started, when the French army conducted the information operation or IO activities in First World War using electronic warforce and techniques that enabled the interception of wireless and telephone communication, as we all know. Now, earlier people were quite awestruck when they came across the term cyber warfare, which mostly attacks computer, software, and command control signal. But here, in information war, comes the concept involving the battle space use and management of ICT, that is information and communication technology, in pursuit of a competitive advantage over an opponent. This opponent may be an opposition party in a country or a hostile country, as we are seeing at present in the Ukraine and Russia war. In either case, it is the manipulation of the information trusted by a gullible target without the target's awareness, so that the target will make decisions against their interest, but in the interest of the one conducting the information war. The underlying goal of information war is thus the attainment of information superiority over the other party. It is by and large any action to deny, exploit, corrupt the enemy's information and its function. And it is needless to say that this information war is no less powerful than the lethal nuclear weapons. Rather, I would say it is more powerful than the nuclear weapon, since information war can jeopardize the entire world in no time. In one stroke, it can jeopardize the entire world. With the advent of new state-of-the-art technology, modern information war has taken up a monstrous form. So we all should take care of this. All the sensible persons must take a note of this. And I'm sure that in this panel, whatever points we have discussed today or tomorrow, it must be spread all over the world, and we will take up a proper path. And that's all. I must not extend my speech further. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, Devilal.
Thank you so much, Somnath sir, for this concise deliberation. And as they say, brevity is the point. You have made your point very clear and louder. Thank you, sir. So now we have the paper presenter in the evening, Madam Supriya Yadav from National Institute of Fashion Technology. She's an associate professor. Supriya Yadav to present her paper. As we are running out of time, so kindly tips, methodology, and the significant findings, if any. So it's over to you, Madam Supriya Yadav. Kindly present your paper.
Hello. Good evening to all present over here. It's my honor that I am being given the chance to speak in front of you eminent people. I'm a very small and immature person in comparison to the experience and the coverage that you people have. So I'm Supriya Yadav here, an assistant professor at National Institute of Fashion Technology, Bhopal Center. And I've been in the education system for the past nearly 14 years. And with my, dealing with the young generation, I've very recently realized the need for, of course, I'm pursuing my PhD at Sage University, Bhopal again, under the guidance of Dr. Vanya Chaturvedi. So felt the need of, how I can be any addition to the information and the research if I could take in context social media and how the generation Z is, going forward with it. So keeping that in mind and my PhD topic area of interest, I had just recently written a paper connecting the dots, Generation Z, social media, and fashion industry. As my background is from design field, I have taken up mixed these three sectors together and try to understand the potential of the fashion industry at the hands of Generation Z through their constant use of social media uh, um, presence. They so during my paper, as the research was done, I felt that there is the need to tap the signals that this generation is giving aloud and being present and being very vocal about their thought processes and how they are into factors of sustainability, global matters that connect humanity. They are no more just concerned about their locality or small places. They are going beyond that. They are at the where all of us have been talking about the Ukraine and Russia war, and they've been very vocal about that. They do express their feelings. They do feel for each other. So equally, they are doing for the brands, where they are in for brand loyalty towards people who are talking about labor and they're talking about sustainability factor as to what are they doing about the electricity and water issues. So there is a lot of potential where these industry, the fashion industry, needs to tap upon these signals, convert them into the new consumer behavior that we are seeing that is evolving, and take these signals through a lot of changes. Marketing strategies can be developed anew and taken ahead, and the opportunity for countries like, especially like India, to expand and reach this generation where we have somewhere around 7 crore population of Generation Z who are in their youth and who would be spending, who would be the decision makers in the next 10-15 years to come. We have a lot of potential to take that forward. So that was my efforts to understand, and it's a very small step towards a bigger research. There are a lot of areas that I have realized during this small paper that I have written, and I do hope to cater to these issues and take them forward and come up with solutions that could be beneficial to the industry as well as humanity at large, in concern to definitely the fashion industry, because that is what I would want to relate it to. So that's it. That is what I can concise in the given time period. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you, Supriya Yadav, for this very nice presentation, and this seems to be very promising work, and we wish you all the best for this. So now I request our chair, Professor Pradosh Kumar Rath, to deliver his concluding address. Professor Rath, please.
Thank you, Lavilalji. Now, in this test session, we started with vacuum, and now we are information rich. We got a lot of information and a lot of deliberation on this topic, which is very recent and which is also useful and relevant also. First, Professor K.G. Suresh has rightfully pointed out that infodemics is the order of the day. information overload is the present situation scenario is very much alarming, and we should find out which is useful and which is not, particularly in a democratic setup where politics is more relevant. In this situation, Professor Suresh has rightfully said that information should be properly chosen and should be properly filtered. And Dr. Ashok Kumar Panigrahi, the chief guest of this session, in his opinion also, he rightfully said that public opinion is very much important in creating information and the generating information. The opinion leaders, the role of opinion leaders are very much important in a democratic setup. He also cited examples of how media producers has been fighting for putting information war, irrespective of their authenticity or not. They are focusing more on the production of information rather than production of good information. And Panigrahi has rightfully said about the political activities also, how the political parties and the recent Panchayat election also we saw in Odisha how social media was used for campaigning in elections, and the government also highlighted and focused more on social media propaganda instead of physical propaganda as the COVID situation is going on. And the keynote speaker, Ms. Venus Upadhyay, has rightfully pointed out that the information, sabotage of information is nowadays the putting power. Those who are powerful, they want to sabotage information of other countries. The polarization of information is order of the day nowadays. The right wing and the left wing are the main focus is on right and left. Accordingly, the media is also divided. Though politically right and left are divided, media is also divided accordingly. And this is the situation of the present war situation, and information plays an important role in this situation. Physical warfare as well as in cyber warfare or information warfare is going hand in hand in this situation. For the first time in the world, we can say that information as well as warfare, physical warfare is going hand in hand. And she is also did enormous job in Nagapattinam and Villipuram areas by starting newspapers. This is the grassroots democracy, or you can say the community media, the community newspapers he has started, and it should be followed by all the states irrespective. In their universities also universities should also promote this type of newspapers in their community to ventilate the grievances of the people, particularly the marginalized section, so that information can be more powerful. She also focused on the physical power and information power in her speech, and she also stressed on the concept of information war should be included in the curricula of all the syllabus. So it is a thought-provoking opinion by Venus Upadhyay. And Professor Dipankar Sinha has rightfully focused on the virtual war and the fighting for control of information. He has also given the same point that the mind game plays an important role in the warfare situation or in the information war like situation, particularly catering to this topic. He focused that mind game is more important rather than deliberation and the presentation. The before presentation, what mind game is going on among the people, the players of the information, and how they are acting upon it. He also focused on the corporatization of information, and he also focused that once upon a time land labor capital was important. Now information is rather more important, and media literacy should be taught in every sphere of activity starting from primary education, and it is a welcome suggestion by Dr. Professor Sinha. And on behalf of GMEC, I congratulate Professor Sudhir Gavane sir for being awarded for his achievements towards media education. And I feel proud to be part of this session, as I feel proud to witness this session and with Professor Gavane sir. Professor Gavane has rightfully said that information filtration is more important rather than information overload, and protecting the information is order of the day. Information security should be given importance, because the ordinary people doesn't know what is good and what is bad, what is fake news and what is authentic and what is not authentic. So there should be some key players or gatekeepers who should decide which should be filtered and which not. And Sri Somnath Mishra ji also rightfully pointed out from the physics point of view. He has the communication, being a engineer in communication technology, he rightfully said the noise is always present in information. What we taught in the Shannon-Weber model also, because apart from whatever information we are getting, 80% we are getting and 20% noise is coming with it. He rightfully compared the noise with the misinformation or disinformation, and this is very harmful for the society. And also I congratulate Supriya ji for presenting her paper on the topic regarding information and superpower. Thank you, Devilal. And I hope that this session will be very much useful and very much helpful for all of media scholars and media students, research scholars and professors in future course of action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Rath, for this comprehensive concluding remark. As we all discussed, a lot from the discussion that since media has pushed into our lives in a big way, the information has become a powerful tool in the political and social agendas, with the nature of those agendas affecting the nature of the information. So throughout this session on war in democracy, I was at war with that. And I thank all the participants in the evening. I thank our president, Professor K.G. Suresh, our secretary, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, and our chief guest, Sri Ashok Panigrahi, our keynote speaker, Vinay Upadhyay, our special guest, Professor Dipankar Sinha, our corporate speaker, Somnath Mishra, paper presenter, Madam Supriya, and everyone, all the participants, and our session chair, Professor Kadosatji. So, as I said throughout this session on information war within Indian democracy, I was at war with bad connectivity and network, so I may be excused for this. So I again thank you all on behalf of Global Media Education Council and look forward to more such enlightening sessions. And I hope the session would be useful to everyone, to all of us. And with this, it's all from me. Good night to everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, Devilal. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.